a big Twinkie, my children! Say, have you ever wanted to know the origins of Slimer, the little green spud that hangs out with the team in most incarnations? Well, now you get that, and more in this annual issue. But first, this annual is a 48-page anthology, so let's check out where Winston was. In Ghostbusters 2, it was only the first 3 Ghostbusters who were put on trial for jackhammering a big hole in the middle of First Avenue. So where was Winston during their battle with the Scoleri brothers? Winston explains all this to the Short Story Comics creative team. They say they're writing a book about the Ghostbusters, but it's clearly meant to be comic creators. He even uses their names. They're canon to Ghostbusters now. There isn't much for him to tell, though. He went to the courthouse for moral support, recognizing that things were not going well for his compatriots. He walked out as it neared the end, and spotted 2 cops holding up some more mood slime, one planning on giving it to his kid to replace some expensive ooze that was part of a toy. And the best toys are the ones that ooze. He tried to warn the cops off from taking it, but it got them mad, especially when they recognized Winston. And that anger summoned forth Mama Scoleri, the true mastermind behind the Scoleri brothers' criminal activities. The ghost distracted the police when Winston ran outside the Ecto-1, which he had taken to get to the courthouse. The proton packs had been taken, but there was still a ghost trap inside the car, which he managed to use to capture her. And after Winston leaves, the comic creators are disappointed they don't have enough for an entire story arc for that. Come on, you're creatives! Be creative! Add a car chase or something! Next up is Haunted America, a prairie hell companion. Special Agent Melanie Ortiz, who had worked with the Ghostbusters in New York in the main series, is called out to Iowa to investigate a missing persons case with some strange phenomena. She and the sheriff soon encounter a ghost and call up the New York branch for help. There is in fact a Chicago branch, but they are preoccupied at the moment. Peter Venkman and extreme Ghostbuster Kylie Griffin are called in to help, and we learn that the construction site used to be the farm of Ethan Alder, a serial killer in the vein of Ed Gein. Instead of grave robbing, though, Ethan was into killing people himself to make all his clothes from human flesh. He's not more nationally known because he was killed in '64 without an arrest or trial. The locals apparently not wanting to be known for producing a serial killer. Speaking of meat, though, Venkman is in Iowa for the steaks, of which he asks the ghost if he knows any good spots for them, right before they bust him, and the victims of his crimes are allowed to rest, leaving to the afterlife. Speaking of the Chicago Ghostbusters, though, that brings us to our next tale. Second City Ghostbusters. The Chicago team, made up of Ron Alexander, Lou Kamaka, Danny Spack, and The Rookie, aka the intern from the Ghostbusters video game, are summoned to the Trask Hotel. The hotel famously has a ghost named the Woman in Blue, murdered in the 1920s. She's completely harmless, and the hotel uses her as a way to attract business, have a safe encounter with a ghost, but lately a much more aggressive ghost has shown up, and the hotel manager wants that ghost taken care of, but to leave the Woman in Blue alone. After failing to find anything, Ron uses a chemical agent he's come up with that should act as a ghost attractor, and it smells horrendous. Still, it does the job, summoning a knife-wielding ghost that they are able to trap. The Blue Woman arrives and explains that that ghost was her killer, who promised to torture her for all eternity. She thanks the Ghostbusters, and Ron traps her too, deciding to use her return as an upsell for the hotel manager. Hard to believe you could be slimier than the actual slime in this franchise. Next up is a prelude to a new series, Ghostbusters 101, wherein Janine's niece asks the Ghostbusters for help with their friend who's being hunted. It's autumn, so the season is their busiest, and they can't be bumped up, so the niece and her friend steal some equipment, though not a proton pack, to try to handle this themselves. They're able to help, their friend even punching a ghost, and manage to trap it before Ray and Peter show up, Janine having put 2 and 2 together about the missing trap. They're actually impressed the kids were able to handle it without the pack, so they give them a card about teaching them to be Ghostbusters, assuming they survive Janine's wrath, that is. Second to last, we finally have the origins of Slimer, which does not actually feature his origins, but speculation on said origins. Because of his ties to the Sedgwick Hotel, one theory is that he was once a chef working there, who finally had a heart attack brought on by sheer anger over a room service customer ordering a steak tartare, and then being angry that he wanted it well done. Another theory is that he was a spirit of gluttony summoned by the cult of Gozer, but due to the time frame of when it was summoned, probably also with the stipulation that while never being satisfied with its eating, it would be too lazy to leave the area. But then Slimer himself speaks, saying that he was a king! But it's actually just Peter pulling a prank with a walkie-talkie. We end on 3 short stories. Kylie's cat Pagan managing to catch a ghost in her room. A parody of Hostess Fruit Pie comics where Slimer gets one of the dessert cakes. And finally a preview hinting that in addition to all the Ghostbusters teams we've seen already, that maybe the 2016 Ghostbusters will be meeting them soon. But that is not for this day. The Ghostbusters remain strong even so many years later. In movies, in toys, and of course, in comics.